And the most liberating thing was when you said, me too.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, because sometimes some of the ugly feelings that come up during grief, right?
Right.
You're just like, what is this? Like, you're feeling,
you feel unsanctified.
Yeah. Like, why do I feel jealous? Or why do I feel like I'm not happy for others? And why do I feel, these different emotions? But when you told me, I'm feeling it too, babe. And we talked about it.
Yeah.
We got it all out there. We kind of vented. And then I remember you taking my hand and saying, let's take these feelings to Jesus.
What's good, everybody? This is Pastor Debleaire Snell, along with my lady, Gianna.
Hey.
And we're excited to welcome you to the Exhale with BOL. And the fact that she's here lets you know that it is a point of view weekend. For those who don't know, point of view is a discussion centered around matters of the heart, whether it is relationships, parenting, dating, or even navigating spaces of divorce. And so we're excited tonight to dive into the deep end. Gianna, you want to tell the folk what we're talking about tonight?
So tonight we're talking about stronger through the storm and how God uses pain to deepen our love sometimes as a married couple. As many of you know, we went through 4 painful miscarriages and God has blessed us with 3 beautiful miracle children. But that journey and what that did in us and for our marriage, there were hard days, there were tough days, but it was a blessing because God brought us closer together through it. And so we just want to share a little bit about our journey and share how whatever you're going through can grow your love and deepen your love in your marriage.
Yeah, but I think before we get into that, because this is not just a conversation about miscarriage or loss in that way.
Right.
It's about learning how to love through the various crucible and storm seasons of life.
Yep.
And so I guess one of the questions we want to just throw out there at the beginning, Gianna, was is there a particular circumstance or difficulty that determines the outcome of a marriage?
I don't think there is one, but it can if you let it. If you allow yourself to be defined by what's going on and how hard it is, and you turn on each other, and, because the enemy is here to kill, steal, and destroy. Let's be clear. He sends storms, he sends rain, he sends trials to destroy our marriage, to tear us apart. And if we allow it, then it can take us down. But if we keep our eyes on God, if we, stay closer to the bigger picture, and if we stay in that teammate mindset, then we can make it through and it doesn't have to define us or take us down.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's a critical discussion that needs to be had. Because I just think that, the Bible in Ecclesiastes says that there's a time and purpose for every season under heaven. So there are going to be times where you're building, and there's going to be times where it's being torn down. There's going to be a time to fight, and then there's a time for peace. There's a time to plant, and there's a time where what's been planted is going to be plucked up. And so I think that, there are times where people will assume that the reason we're struggling or didn't make it was because we had all these outer things that touched our lives, not realizing those things are going to touch everybody's life in some way, shape, or form. Now, the one thing I will say is that there are times where God allows seasons to converge. And so sometimes you can go through a season of, pulling up what's being planted and a season of war at the same time or in close proximity to one another. But I think the overall arching idea is that marriage is not designed to be storm-free, but God wants it to be storm-proof. So that sometimes the storm just can be a revealer in certain ways. It just reveals where the foundation is weak or where there's a leak in the roof. And so that water intrusion is not really the problem. It's just kind of revealing that there's some vulnerabilities, there's some deficits, there's a lack of integrity in the structure of the marriage, which is really, the real thing that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of those things that we definitely went through, and I definitely remember feeling like, why us? You know, we were fresh out of school. We had gotten married. We were married several years, and we were just like, oh, it's time for us to have children. And
just
so,
run of the course.
Yeah,
had it all laid out. And
you got it all planned out. We'll travel a little bit. We'll get to know each other, have fun, and then we'll have children.
Before you go there, quick question. I don't know. As we talk and share, does life ever go the way we script it? Like, I mean, you know how it is when you're, whether you're your 5th year marriage or your 1st year marriage or 10th year, you start to kind of, this human nature, create this script, and this is how it should go from here. Does it ever go that way?
You know what? In my experience, no.
Yeah.
And I always say, I, as a young girl, planned out my life.
Yeah.
I wanted to be married by a certain age. Wanted to have this many children at these different ages. I wanted to have a car, a house by this. Like, I had it all planned out. I had it all written out. It did not go as planned. But I will testify that it went way better. And it all ended up coming out way more beautiful than I could have ever scripted.
Right.
And that's what, when you let God hold the pen, you don't know what he's writing. You don't know what he's doing.
Right.
But you know that he's going to make all things beautiful in his time, and that he's going to make it all come together. But it doesn't go as we plan it. Because we're human. We don't know. We don't know what's best.
And that's why I just think everybody, even as you embody your marriage, you got to keep Romans 8:28 in view, that all things work together for good to them who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Because the truth is, again, the Bible even says in a man's heart, he plans his course, but it is the Lord that ultimately determines his steps. So I just don't think that, even if you have your script, it's not evil, it's not wrong, but you can't be loyal to it. Or assume that, man, everything is just going to be ruined simply because it didn't go like we planned it to go. So it's okay to have a vision for your marriage or for your life. I think about Joseph, where he had these visions and these dreams of rulership and leadership, and they came from God. But how it came into being, he could not have scripted that. He could not have, really said, this is the way God is going to do it. And I just think that even when we look at kind of where we are, in our marriage, there's certain things that we saw ourselves functioning in a certain way. But man, how we would get there. Like, I'm trying to think, is it the Winans and Donnie McClurkin that says, man, who would have thought I get to know you this way? I thought it would happen in a certain way, but I got to know you in a better way. Just because the journey doesn't always reflect the destination. So the journey may look like it's taking you to a certain destination, but God has a different destination that may not look like the journey, I guess.
And that's where the trust comes in. We have to trust the one holding the pen. We have to trust God with our lives. He knows what's best. He sees the big picture. And that's why a lot of times when I'm driving the kids to school, right? And I remember a couple times you would see me putting on the GPS. And you're like, well, you know the way. But the GPS is able to see the big picture.
Able to see it all.
Able to see all the delays, all the traffic.
Construction.
And so even though it may take me longer to get there, I'm able to avoid something that would have blocked my path.
That's good word.
And so we have to trust that big picture and know that God knows what he's doing. He knows the way we take, and he's going to get us to where we need to be.
Good stuff. Amen. All right. So tonight, again, we'll talk a little bit about just, our journey, or one of the storms we went through, which was a season or a prolonged season of loss, and looking to be able to add to our family. We've been blessed, as Gianna stated, with with 3 amazing kids. But before that, it was 4 difficult, painful losses and a long time of waiting. Why'd you feel impressed to talk about that tonight?
It's because this is very near and dear to my heart, and there are people who are losing pregnancies every day. And we get calls, we get emails, we get text messages from mothers who are saying, my daughter just lost a child, and they are really inspired by your story, or they're encouraged by your testimony. And I don't think we've had an opportunity to share it here on the Breath of Life platform. And so I just felt like it was time for us to share and help break the silence. This is one of those things that a lot of women and couples go through. And
what's
they
the percentage?
may never show.
One out of every
4.
4 couples.
And so, and it probably would be more because there's some people who don't never say anything. And so we want to just help break the silence and let people know you are not alone. There are couples out there who have gone through this, and God is able to keep us. He's able to sustain, and He's able to deliver you out of this.
Yeah.
So
So what do you remember the most about that season of loss and waiting?
I remember just feeling a lot of questions for God. Like, I had a lot of angst because one of the things, as a spiritual couple, as a kingdom couple, we, from the onset, were very prayerful about our pregnancies. You would come in every morning and lay your hands on my womb. We were excited. We were already talking to the baby. You had already bought me maternity clothes. I wasn't even showing yet, but we were just excited. And so I think that was, as we were beginning to experience loss, it didn't equate in my mind. Like, we prayed, we had, tried to do things the right way, marriage-wise, and waiting until we were married, and we were in ministry. And so a lot of things were just kind of lining up, but that particular part wasn't. And it just led me to have a lot of questions for God, like, why us? What did we do? What did I do as a woman that's carrying the baby? I just kept wondering, well, what's wrong with my body, and what's broken here? And so it was just a time of a lot of questions, doubt, and fear, because you don't know, are we going to be able to have a child? Is this God's plan for us to not have children? So there was just a lot of questions. That's what I remember. You know. What about you?
Yeah, I just think it was definitely a growth season, and it was kind of a worldview shaping season. Meaning, there's just certain things that you read in the scripture, meaning you just kind of, I think our nature is to try to make righteousness formulate. Meaning, like, okay, you do X, Y, Z, and it should produce, or you do ABC, it should produce result X, Y, Z.
Correct.
If you try to serve God this way, then this is what should happen.
This is the result.
And we can kind of cherry pick certain verses from the scripture. It says, the path of the just is like the shining sun, growing brighter and brighter unto this glorious day. But like then you remember, like, Jesus made it clear, Matthew 5:44 and verse 45, man, it's going to rain on the just and the unjust, and the sun's going to rise on the evil and the good. Or even just Psalms 34, where the Bible talks about many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers them from them all. And so I just think there is that kind of bewilderment, because, like, I guess with the thing about this kind of loss, there's no warning sign, I guess. There's nothing that kind of says this may be a part of your path. And I guess I never made room in my mind that this could be a part of the journey. Like, I don't even know that I really knew anybody that had talked about that or had that as a discussion, so on and so forth. And I think that was kind of like that worldview shaping component of it.
Absolutely. Like, when the miscarriage began, one of the first things you get when you become pregnant is this book called What to Expect When You're Expecting. And any symptom I had, I would look into that book. It's literally the encyclopedia for all things pregnancy. And so anytime I experienced something, I did that. And so I began to experience some cramping, and different pains that were strange, spotting, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I looked in the book, and it's, one of the main things is miscarriage. And I'm just like, wait, what? Because like you said, I hadn't heard of anyone having that. It wasn't even a thing. We had told everybody we were expecting. We had bought them, like, it wasn't something we had considered that we could lose the pregnancy. And so when it happened, it was completely shocking. And I wanted to just kind of ask you in that vein, like, how do you feel like we processed grief differently? Like, what was your process for you when you found out that we had lost the pregnancy and we went on to lose a second and a third? Like, what was your grief process?
So I think mine was probably a little bit delayed to a certain extent. Because I think my first instinct was like, okay, my job is to cover you and protect you and kind of make sure you were good and kind of be strong, slow, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I think it was a little bit delayed. And I just think that, a pregnancy is a little bit more of an intimate experience for a woman. There's someone living inside of you. I think I experience it vicariously through you, whereas you experience it intimately. So I think there was a little bit of a delayed kind of grief, whereas I think you were maybe a little bit more openly expressive with it, whereas I think it took me a minute to even realize how am I supposed to feel?
Yeah.
Hey, is it okay that I'm feeling this way? Man, should I even be worried about this as opposed to like just trying to make sure you're comfortable and good and comforted? I guess that was kind of a little bit more my at least early journey.
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit later where probably maybe not until loss 2 or 3 where I was like, okay, this is a full loss, and all right, and it's something we've got to do together, or even the recognition that there is a need for some support.
Yeah. So for me, my grief process was definitely, like you said, expressive.
Yeah.
It was immediate, because, like you said, there's an immediate connection for a lot of women. As soon as you find out you're pregnant, you walk different, you sit down different, you eat different, you're analyzing everything that you do, everything that you take in, because you want to protect your baby.
Right.
And so there's this immediate bond that just begins to develop.
Yeah.
And so I'm just moving differently because I want to make sure my baby's okay.
Yeah.
And so when I began to experience the loss, and it was very much like a tiny example of delivery, like, the baby passed from me.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I couldn't control it. I couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
I called the doctor and they just said, unfortunately, you're so early along. There's nothing we can do to stop this.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to experience this.
Yeah.
And they tried to reassure me, this happens in a lot of first pregnancies.
Yeah.
And it's the body getting rid of something that wasn't quite right.
Right. Yeah.
And so they felt very hopeful and reassuring. So I think that did help me early in the grief process to know, this was something that may not have to happen again. But I was definitely very expressive. It was devastating. It was heart-wrenching to experience it. And so I do remember a lot of days crying, feeling down, and just not knowing and feeling like, what did I do? What?
Yeah.
And so I remember I had flown right before I lost the baby. And so that was when they had first introduced those little security things where you walk through the 360.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I shouldn't have gone through that. Maybe I shouldn't have gone to the workout class.
A lot of guessing.
A lot of guessing.
A
A lot of trying to figure it out. But I do remember you being very sensitive, covering me, coming to ask me how I was doing. Our family was very supportive. And so it was just one of those learning experiences where we were learning that this is a very real grief when people lose a baby.
Yeah, I think the other feeling is, I think for any husband, and I think the trials may vary, but like when you can't control outcomes, like it is a radically unsettling thing for for both parties, for a husband. But it's like, even I can't cheer her up, I can't make things better, and I think that's something that any husband wrestles with, in a really pronounced way. So whether it's a loss of a job, or you lose your house, or there's grief, and it's just like you can't control it.
Yeah.
It's that fixer instinct is rendered useless and helpless, and I think it adds to maybe a sense of just inadequacy as a husband, and I think that kind of fuels, either you kind of doing the most, or maybe kind of trying to disconnect from it, because it's just like you can't fix it.
Right.
And you have to just kind of wait and rely on God in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that really helped us turn a corner, because there were honestly some days where I was just like, well, why is he not crying?
Yeah.
Why are you not sad with me? It's almost seemed like you were, moving about. And I get that the male instinct is to be the strong one. You want to be the one I can lean on.
Right.
But there were some times where I was just like, why is he not broken apart?
Yeah.
You know? But I think one of the turning points for us was when we began sharing with each other what we were feeling.
Yeah.
So I remember there was a family member that was having a baby. They were like, really young. And, we were excited for them, but there was definitely some very real, raw feelings of like, man, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
What's happening here? You know, this isn't fair. And I think there was just that natural human instinct where you're just questioning, everything.
Yeah.
And I remember.
And we were in that season of life. Everybody we knew, or our peer group, everybody was having kids left and right.
Yes.
So,
and so, we're on our second and third miscarriage, and it's just kind of like, when is it going to be our turn? And you see people who may not have wanted a child or, had this incident happen as a teen and they're, blessed, and you're just like, man. And so I remember I just kind of felt the need to open up to you and just say, babe, I'm struggling. I know we're going to this baby blessing.
Right.
And I want to be happy and I want to be joyful.
Right.
But I'm not going to lie, I'm struggling. And the most liberating thing was when you said, me too.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And I was just like, okay. Because sometimes some of the ugly feelings that come up during grief, right?
Right.
You're just like, what is this? Like, you're feeling...
you feel unsanctified.
Like, why do I feel jealous? Or why do I feel like I'm not happy for others? And why do I feel, these different emotions? But when you told me, I'm feeling it too, babe. And we talked about it. We got it all out there. We kind of vented. And then I remember you taking my hand and saying, let's take these feelings to Jesus. And he's going to, and I don't know, after that prayer, I felt better. One, because God was able to see me and I was able to take all of my raw feelings to God. The anger, the resentment, the jealousy, take it to him and lay it at his feet. And then secondly, I felt bonded with you because I felt bad for how I was feeling. I felt ashamed for how I was feeling. But when you let me know, no, I'm struggling too.
Right.
I'm hurting too. I think it brought us together. And we were, that was one of those moments as we're talking about how grief and how loss and how difficulty can bring you closer together. That was definitely a turning point moment for me when I was like, oh, we're in this together.
Right.
It's not just him comforting me and helping me get over this.
Right.
We're in this together. We're both hurting in our own way, but with God, we can make it through this.
So I think the other thing too that was kind of a recognition is that there are no individual trials in marriage. Your trials are my trials. And my trials are your trials. And there's no way to segment those things because in marriage there is just this overlap. It's like a plate of spaghetti. It's all touching. It's all connected. It's all interwoven. And so there's just no way to kind of, remove that. And so I think that, so when we talk about, marriages being able to survive crucible seasons, I think a part of that is just kind of recognizing that, okay, even if it's affecting you, I guess, hitting you harder in one season than me, at the end of the day, this is our trial. And I've got a teammate. I've got a partner. It's just like that movie we watch. I know you probably tired of it. There's a movie called Fireproof. It's a Christian movie. The acting is not great, but the messaging is powerful. But like it's kind of set in the backdrop of a firefighter who is fighting for his marriage. But like in the beginning, there's just this idea: it's like you never leave your partner, especially in a fire. And I just think that, man, that's like the idea, because it's like we're looking at all these circumstances, and you're trying to handle it on your own, or she's trying to handle it on their own, or maybe you're blaming them. But you got to realize that's your partner, and you got a much more likely probability to make it through that fire together. And I think that's what Ecclesiastes laid out, man, that if one falls, the other can pick them up. If it's cold, one can't keep warm by himself, but the two can keep each other warm. And if one is overpowered, two can stand against an enemy, and a threefold cord is not easily broken. And so I think that partnership is critical to maneuvering any season of difficulty or trial, if you realize I'm not in it by myself.
That's so good. We got to be in it together. And I think the resounding theme for this season is teamwork. We have to stay and remain a team. We're in this together.
This conversation about loss in marriage was and is incredible, and it may help you. Listen, if it's helping you right now, we want you to put that in the comment section on some highlights that you are experiencing while you're watching this conversation. Next week, don't forget to join us because we will be weekend exhaling with What Just Happened, your favorite live show with myself, Pastor Nugent, and Pastor Snell. But in the meantime, let's get back to this amazing conversation about experiencing loss in marriage.
How can couples honor each other's pace of healing without comparison?
Yeah, and I don't have the perfect answer for that. But I think it just begins with just fundamentally recognizing everybody grieves differently.
Yeah.
It's kind of an inexact science. You kind of know generally the phases of grief that all people go through. But the phases of grief doesn't always speak to the pacing of grief.
Yeah.
So some people, they're going to spend a little bit more time maybe in that denial phase. Whereas I kind of think maybe you because that baby was living in you, maybe you came to acceptance quicker than I did. I was just like, no, Lord, not us, not me, so on and so forth, And even as we were going into kind of maybe because you kind of knew what was going on. And even as we were going to kind of detect heartbeat, and it's just a solemn doctor's visit when they can't detect that heartbeat. And I'm over here like, oh yeah, God is going, God's going to show it up and da-da-da-da. And so I just think maybe so somebody gets to that pace of acceptance or kind of gets through that phase of denial sooner. Whereas you may have, and I don't want to guess, but maybe, you may have stayed in that space of anger a little longer than I did, once I finally got into it. So I just think, everybody's going to go through those different phases, but some are going to stay in those different phases a little bit longer than the next. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I think each time for us, experiencing repeated losses, each time was different. There was no rhyme or reason, okay, I know I'll stay in this long, like it was all relative to each loss, to each circumstance, and to how it happened each time. And so we just have to give each other space. We have to check in. How are you doing today? Making sure that we're making sure we're working on it as a team, but not rushing anyone along on that process.
And I think the other thing I think is worth noting, even as we talk about like these trials and adversities, like this was a marital disruption. Like, because it just throws off, there's certain trials that just throw off the mood, the energy, the intimacy, like, so, and affects everything, you know what I'm saying? So whether it is, financially, because now these medical bills are compounding, sexually, moods are just
all over the
different and all over the place and so on and so forth. So I just think grief and loss and tragedy and trial and adversity, just realizing it is a marriage disrupt. So we're not saying it won't impact you. We're not saying it won't make a difference. But I'm just saying, I just think that, I think one, recognizing it, staying on the team, and then just kind of understanding one another's pacing is critical for the road ahead.
It absolutely is. We have to be gracious with ourselves and with each other. And so, like you said, sexually and making sure we're communicating mentally, emotionally, trying to make sure we're on the same page with not pushing past anything and making sure we're good. You mentioned prayer and how, when we would go in for these ultrasounds, right? And, we're excited to see the heartbeat, to hear and see our baby. And then they turn off the machine and say, we're going to bring in the doctor. Like, after several times, you kind of know
what it is,
what that means. And you mentioned that
and you see the nurse's face or their face turns solemn.
Right. And they've literally turned off the machine. Like, it's like, okay. And so there was just that sinking feeling. For me, as you mentioned, I knew because there were symptoms that you feel at the beginning of pregnancy that began to subside. So like, when I first knew I might be pregnant, I was feeling nauseous. I was feeling, different sensations, in your body. And then all of a sudden that would go away. And so I was beginning to just feel that anxiousness. But one of the things you said was that, you had been praying, right? And then you're going in hopeful, like, the heartbeat's gonna be there.
Yeah.
Like I've prayed. You know what I'm saying? We're a praying family. We're a people of faith.
Yeah.
And so we believe.
Yeah.
But how do you keep praying when that prayer doesn't get answered?
Yeah.
Right? Because there are people who are in that trial and in that loss, and they prayed for their parent to beat the cancer. They
Yeah.
prayed that their job would not be lost. They
Yeah.
prayed, that their family would stay together. Like, how do you navigate your prayer life and your faith in God when He doesn't answer the way you had hoped?
So I honestly, now again, I did not have this perspective like in the season.
Right,
this
right,
is
right,
kind
right,
of
right. This
with
is-
the clarity of some hindsight. But I think it really goes to the purpose of prayer. Like, the primary purpose of prayer is to develop intimacy with God. Like, you're not praying exclusively for a result. The purpose of prayer is for fellowship, intimacy with God. So you can make your request known, but that's not the purpose of prayer.
Wow.
Because if you only pray unto a certain result, then when you're not getting that result,
You're gonna stop
your
praying.
prayer life completely dies. But I think what happens is, like, where what I am seeking is not a result and outcome, but I am seeking a person.
A relationship.
And I am seeking a relationship with God. Like, and that is my primary pursuit. Like, that does not shift when the results are not what I want them to be. And it is the anchoring, it is the peace, it is the fellowship, it is knowing God
Wow.
that then strengthens you through maturity over a long time
Yeah, yeah.
to be able to handle results that are different than what you want. Because I just think,
God.
prayer is a relational activity. It's not a transactional activity. So as soon as the transaction goes differently than you want it to, then, man, your prayer life is going to die.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the journey, because I'm like, Lord, all right, I'm believing for this thing.
Yeah.
Not believing in a person.
Right.
I'm believing you for this outcome, this desired outcome, this end result. And I just think that, it took a toll. Lost 2, lost 3, and especially lost 4, because we got
Yes.
a good ways. We got deep
Yeah.
into the pregnancy, and I could see the outcome. You were nice and pregnant, with these in the last one. But I just think that, fundamentally, like, if you're going to, as a couple or individually, really be able to manage, like, a strong spiritual rhythm, you got to be praying unto God, unto intimacy and fellowship with Him, not unto a certain result or outcome. So whether it's for a baby, a job, a house, a car, like, those things are secondary.
Yeah.
The primary reward for prayer is not getting a result. The primary benefit of prayer is knowing God.
Oof.
Yeah.
Babe, that summed it up.
Yeah.
Like, and it's funny, like you said, we're saying that in hindsight.
Yeah.
But that was
This is
my...
looking back. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and being able to operate in it now.
Yeah.
But only because you kind of had to go through that. Yeah.
Exactly. Because that was definitely my thing. Like, once I wasn't getting my way,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm done with this prayer thing.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't work. Like, reading the Bible, prayer,
Yeah.
praise, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, we had been praying over my womb
Yep.
every morning. We
Yep.
were believing God. I was, I stood up in church one day and said, I'm
Yep.
claiming this
Yeah.
baby is going to live.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where I just believed, and I was praying to get the result.
The result, yeah.
I was praying
We
to
both
get,
were, yeah.
what we wanted. And I'll never forget when God broke that thing down to me. We had just finished having our 4th, pregnancy loss. And I'll never forget, you were away preaching when we found out.
Yeah.
You managed to fly home that night,
Yeah.
and I was just broken. You came home, I was laying on the bed crying, and you came to me and you said, babe, I just believe this isn't about a baby. This is an attack on our faith.
Yeah.
So we have to keep praying.
Yeah.
And I remember you said that, and I'm just like, oh man,
Yeah.
that means we have to keep praying.
Yeah.
We have to keep seeking God,
Yeah.
no matter what
Yeah.
the outcome
No matter
is.
what the outcome is.
And so that was such a hard season
Yeah.
because I was having to pray to a God that I didn't like very much.
Mm-hmm.
I was having to pray to a God that I was having trust issues with.
With,
You know what I
yep.
mean? And I remember there were mornings where I would go to my little prayer corner, and I would just be like, God, I'm not really feeling you
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
but I'm here. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? God, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm
Yeah.
here. And it was in that season where I was able to go to God in that
Yeah.
raw space,
Yeah.
where it's not one of those like, I can't wait to talk to God. It was like a side-eye type of relationship.
Yeah.
But the fact that he accepted me and
Sure.
welcomed me
Yeah.
and said, come on, baby, come
Yeah.
with the broken heart, come with the resentment, come with the anger.
Yeah.
I got you. Lay your head right here,
Yeah.
and let's walk through this together. And I tell people all the time, that's when me and God started going together.
Going together, yeah.
Because at that point, it was purely relationship, because it got to a point where it's
Yeah.
like, God, I've been so broken in this process. For me, it's not about a baby anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I need you to save me. Because the fact that I stopped praying,
Yeah.
I stopped reading my Bible for months because I just couldn't see my way out of this.
Yeah.
And the fact that God wooed me back to him and said, no,
Yeah.
I want your heart. I got you.
Yeah.
Let's walk through this together. Like,
Yeah.
that made me fall even deeper in love with God.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody told me, God is big enough
Yep.
to handle all of your emotions.
All of your emotions.
Because I
Yeah.
feel like there's this Christian culture phrase that we always throw out there, like, how you doing? I'm
Yeah.
blessed and highly favored.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Too blessed to
I'm
be stressed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not able to be real sometimes
Yeah.
and say, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
But with God,
Yeah.
I learned in that season that I could tell him, God, I'm angry.
Yeah.
God, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
God, I'm broken. But he was able to meet me in my brokenness
Yeah.
and heal me.
Yeah.
And so I praise God for that.
And so the only thing, and again, this is just hindsight. this is the minute to somebody who's in it right now.
Yeah.
Because I do think one of the things that taxes faith almost more than anything is disappointment.
Yeah.
It is when you get your hopes all the way up
All the way.
and it comes to pass differently. Now, what I think you can do is you can show God your frustration, your anger, like your disappointment, your lamentations. But I think again, I think the one thing that you're going to find being most fruitless is pouting. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can do it.
Yeah.
You know, God's not going to judge you, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
because what pouting is, I'm going to take my ball and go home. I'm going to withdraw. But like, God is like, I'm source. I'm strength.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll
And
I'm
you'll
here
get there.
waiting for you. But like,
Yeah.
you know, but I just think of all the expressions, that's probably the one I want to kind of, because it's counterintuitive. It's
Yeah.
self-harming is what it is. Because at the end of the day, he's source. He's strength.
Yeah.
He's the way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I just think like it's better to just stay in the ring and fight.
Yeah.
Than to kind of say, all right, I'm just going to take my ball away.
Yeah.
Even if that's your
Or even
initial
if you just
instinct.
stay in the ring
Yeah.
and you have no strength left
Right.
to fight.
Yeah. 'Cause
Stay
I think
in there with Jesus.
that's
Like,
what you see the great
yeah.
heroes of faith, like Job. Man, he stayed in the ring. It was just like, man, cursed be the day. Cursed be the day of I was born. You know what I'm saying? From the day
Yeah.
my mother conceived
It got
me in her
real.
womb. You know what I'm saying? But he stayed
In the ring.
kind of, with God. And I just think, even when we talk about faith, though, because, a big part of faith is not just faith to believe for this outcome, but it's faith to trust God regardless of what he allows
That
or
part.
what he permits. And
Yeah.
I think that was the part about faith I didn't understand. I thought it was like, all right, to believe against hope,
Yes.
reason, science,
Yes.
for this outcome.
That's the biggest
but it's,
faith. Yeah.
it's to accept whatever he allows, and just even realize it's kind of faith to accept when God says no, or when God says wait. And one of the stories that really helped me understand that was Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus was like, Lord, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me.
Yep.
Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. 3 times. He was just like, Lord, all right, if there's another way, show it to me. And God was like, nah, this is your path.
Yeah.
This is your cup. It's been assigned to you. And I think, man, like, it was kind of really stunning. Like, man, if the Father could tell Jesus, no, this is your cup, then God can tell me no. This is your cup. This is your path. And there are times where like it's different than how you scripted, how you want it, what you would prefer. But I think part of it is just kind of saying, all right, Lord, if this is my assignment, my path, my journey, or just the attack that you permit to happen, I'm going to roll with it, even if I have to go reluctantly. There's a sermon I preach called Reluctant Obedience.
This is when all of the sermons you've preached
Yep. It's
had to be
born
tested.
out of this. Yeah. Or this is where they were formed.
Yeah.
Is in the crucible. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you mentioned that verse. I remember the morning where we were going in for that final determining ultrasound with our fourth loss. And I remember, I was just in a space where I only wanted to hear those positive verses that we talked about, the path of the righteous is shining, and ask whatever you will and God will do. Like, I only wanted that type of faith in my space.
Yeah.
And so I was just claiming those verses. We took a week to fast and pray. And I just remember that right before we went to the MISC, to the ultrasound, one of our head elders called and said, well, let me pray with you all.
I remember.
And he prayed that prayer.
Yeah,
Lord,
she did.
Elder
Chris,
even you.
Chris Bailey from
Yes.
Lexington, Kentucky. Yep.
Yes. And he said, Lord, even you prayed. You know what we want.
Yeah.
But Lord, even you had to pray that prayer. And it's crazy because there was that moment where God kind of convicted me and said, I know what you want, Gianna.
Yeah.
I know you've been claiming and praying and believing and saying this is the only way, but I need you to surrender right now because I'm writing the story.
Yeah.
I got this. And so it was in that moment that I had to come to the point where I had to pray that prayer and say, God, even if not, I'm going to trust you because at the end of the day, it's not about what we want. It's about the relationship. And I was that one that was pouting. I was the one that got out of the ring. I ain't going to lie. I excused myself because this is getting too ghetto. This is getting too real. I'm getting off of this roller coaster.
Well, I think we both did, whereas you just kind of said it, whereas there was a numbness that kind of was the usher for me into that space. Whereas you just kind of like, you just a little bit more real with it.
I'm
you know
out.
what I'm saying? Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
But like you said, when I excused myself from the ring, the light went off in my life. I became depressed. I couldn't smile anymore. I began like putting on all this makeup, trying to put on this mask of happiness and peace. Like it just literally turned off the light in my life. And so I got to a point where it was like, I don't need a baby right now. I need God. And I crawled back into that ring and I was like, God, I need you to pick me up and I need you to help me get back in relationship with you. Because everything else will flow out of that. Because what I can't go through life with is without you. Like, I need God. And I remember that morning I asked him to come back into my life. The light came back on. I looked back out the window. I saw the sun again. The depression lifted. The darkness lifted. And God was able to pull us out of it. And so I'm just thankful because I needed that turning point before the miracle that came.
You want to share, as you're kind of rounding, like, when we are leaving the hospital for the last time, no child, that our last baby is buried in a children's garden or section of the cemetery in Lexington, Kentucky. The promise God gave you and how things materialized from there, and then how you were able to move that misery into a ministry.
Yeah, so when we were leaving the hospital, we had gone through the delivery, we had said goodbye to our son. We're leaving the hospital.
We named him after both of our fathers.
Yes. And it was extremely emotional, very heavy. And as we're leaving the hospital, we're seeing other families putting their babies and loading them up into the car seats. And it's just the two of us leaving with empty arms. And that thing just weighed on me so heavily. So as we were leaving the hospital, with this fourth loss, I just said, God, I'm done. Like, this is where I get off. I can't do this anymore. It's the excitement. It's the roller coaster of emotions. I can't do this anymore. And so I just kind of said that in my heart, just out of despair. And I will never forget, I literally heard the voice of God saying, Gianna, you will have a child.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's all I needed.
Yeah.
I just needed God to know.
Yeah.
I just needed God to remind me that he hadn't forgotten me
Yeah.
and that he saw me,
Mm-hmm.
that he had chosen me, and that there was going to be an end
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
pain. I didn't know when.
Yeah.
I didn't know how.
Right.
I didn't know how many losses we would have to go through.
Yeah.
But that word, I heard him.
Yeah.
And I remember sharing it with you, and you were like,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I didn't
Yeah.
hear that word, because you had seen me go through so much.
Yeah.
And you were just like, I don't know.
My heart couldn't take it no more. Yeah.
But I'll never forget,
Yeah.
later that week, you were like, babe, God gave me a dream. I saw a little boy, a baby, on my chest. And everyone was gathered around, and they were just cheering
Yeah.
and praising God. And so God showed you too, and he spoke to you in the way that you needed, and that reassured what I had heard. And God did it.
He did it. Yeah.
Under a year later,
Yeah.
we were at that same hospital
Same hospital. Yep.
where the devil tried to steal all of our hope and,
Yep.
and all of our dreams, and
Yep.
we gave birth to our miracle.
Yeah. His
Jaden.
name Jaden. I think you saw his name in the book of Nehemiah, and that name meant Jehovah has heard.
Yes.
And God just kept on blessing us.
Yes.
We had our baby girl Brooke, she's about 3 years after him.
Yep.
And then we're done. At least so we thought. Our cup was already running over, and Lord still had another plan. And
Hallelujah.
got our youngest son, who is just the complete. He's a class clown in the house and brings so much laughter and levity to
Yes.
the house. And our third son, Braden. And I think we can all attest that, there is an intimacy, there's a connection that we have. I don't know, maybe we could have gotten there, but, I would have never want this for someone else. I would never wish this or pray this for somebody else. But those hardships and tears were not wasted.
No.
Because God used, those pangs and
Yes.
seasons of weeping to bind us to one another
Absolutely.
and to cement us in this road and in this journey
I wouldn't trade
in a
that for
way
anything.
that I don't know we could have gotten it any other way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I think the messaging, to those who are listening is just saying, hey, this was our trial. It was specific for us, but there are trials that are being customized for you. And so maybe it's financial, maybe it's medical, maybe it's relational, maybe it's, professional.
Yeah.
But like Rick Warren says, God never wastes
the
a
hurt.
hurt.
Yeah.
All of them are forming something in you. And I just think, for those who desire the kingdom of God and you want the character of Christ, the truth is there's no character peel, there's no ointment. Like character has one source.
Yep.
And when you look at what binds all deeply spiritual people together, it is not just a desire for the word or church or the Bible, it's experiences that require you to trust and depend upon God in a deeper and more powerful way and fashion. And so, we just wanted to take a little time,
Yes.
not just to talk about our journey, but to say, God never left us. Even when we couldn't trace him, he was still trustworthy. When we could not feel him, he was still present. And even when, the seams were being tested,
Yep.
there was hope when we began to turn to one another and ultimately began to turn to God. So Gianna, you want to kind of maybe just look in your camera and just kind of maybe share a word of hope or encouragement maybe to a wife who is at the end of herself, as the union is being tested because of some trial.
Yeah, I just want to encourage you to stay in the ring. Stay in the ring. That's where your hope is. That's where your help is. The enemy is going to try to tempt you to go to other sources, to go to your girls, to go to temporary fixes. Let's go shopping. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. But stay in the ring. Get on your face and ask God to help you get through this. And it's in that relationship that God is going to deliver you encourage you, strengthen you, and give you what you need. One of the best pieces of advice that I got in our journey was stay in the who. There were so many questions I had, and I would meditate on why this happened, when I would get out of this, and how. But one of the things that I learned was to stay in the who, and just stay in God's presence. Ask yourself, who is God going to be to me today? And as you stay in the who, and you stay keeping your eyes on him, he will be everything that you need. Don't give up hope. Stay in the ring. God has a plan for you, and he makes all things beautiful in his time.
Amen. So we know that there are portions of this episode that was a little bit more heavy. But again, we just wanted to just show up as our real selves, our authentic selves, and kind of really talk to you out of our experience tonight. And again, your experience may be a little bit different as a couple, as you are being tested and tried by a different set of variables. But I hope the message and the takeaway is that as you trust one another and as you trust God, that God will be your shield, your buckler. He'll be the glory and the lifter of your head. I want you to know that though trials may come from without, I want you to know that the God who is for you is greater than the God who is against you. And so we thank you again for joining us this weekend here at the Exhale with BOL. And we pray that you continue to trust and walk with God, and he'll help you to form and shape your point of view. God bless.
What a month of point of views, or POV as we lovingly call it here around the studio. Listen, we hope that you loved this month's worth of content. We were excited to share it with you. We want to continue to do this for you, so please hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you share it with people that you know. And your continued support, making sure that you visit breathoflife.tv to find ways that you can help us, partner with us as we continue to present program like this with your Breath of Life. Again, don't forget to join us next week for our live show with Pastor Kirk, myself, and Pastor Snell with What Just Happened. And we cannot wait to see you right here at the Weekend Exhale with BOL.